Should you be buying or selling Romeo Doubs now that he is back from his injury? All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Marcus Mosher and Kate Magdziuk.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is presented by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their Prize Pick projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That is prizepicks.com, promo code Locked On. I am Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. She is Kate Magdziuk. Follow her on Twitter at FFBallBlast. Kate, it's been a while since we recorded a podcast. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm recovering from the flu, so I appreciate you taking over the reins for our intro here, trying to save my voice from these coughing fits that I'm still getting over. But I hope our audience has been healthier than I am, and we're gonna get back on track. But it's gonna be a good episode because I always love talking rookies, Marcus, especially now that we have 12 weeks in the book. We've got a larger sample size to work with, and in our pre-show, it just kind of talking about who we like, who we don't like, who we're selling, who we're buying. It turns out that like you and I, usually on the same page, are not necessarily on the same page, Marcus.
Yeah, we're gonna discuss some rookies that we disagree on a little bit. But before we do that, Kate, just in case you're watching on YouTube, excited about tonight's game. We got Bills Patriots tonight. As a lifelong Bills fan, sporting the cup, the coffee cup, the hat, ready to go.
Marcus, I also have my Bills shirt on. so we are true Bills Mafia here.
We are
and
absolutely
representing
true bandwagon fans. It's absolutely fantastic. All right, Kate, let's start with Romeo Doubs, who the expectation is he's either going to play this week or next week for the Packers. He's finally healthy-ish. And I think you and I disagree a little bit about his value. I believe he's a sell at his current price. I think you're buy. Well, what's your thoughts there?
So I want you to sort of tip things off, Marcus, because I'm very curious as to why you're looking to sell a guy who's just kind of being overshadowed by another teammate this month in general. Christian Watson finally just healthy, looking good, absolutely dominating, scoring touchdowns. We've seen him really come on as of late. 353 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns, leads all rookies in receiving touchdowns. Now, like I think that this surgence of Christian Watson is presenting the time to buy Romeo Doubs, who I do think that like we're kind of forgetting. There was obviously out of control preseason hype for the 4th round pick, but tell me why you think this is a moment to sell, because I'm capitalizing on the hype of Christian Watson and doing the opposite.
I think this is a good time to sell because there's still this hope that he's going to come back into the offense and have the same role that he had earlier in the season. And I just don't think that's the case, right? Like you look at some of the games where he was productive, it was because Allen Lazard was banged up with a shoulder injury. Christian Watson wasn't playing, and he was really the only target. And it wasn't like he was having monster games. Like his best game of the season against Tampa Bay, that's when everybody was missing. He caught 8 passes on 8 targets for 73 yards and a touchdown. The most yards that he had in the game was 73 yards. You look at what he did in the final 5 games before he got hurt, 12 catches, 130 yards, and a touchdown. I know there's some people that really liked him pre-draft and they see some of these amazing touchdowns and he had a really nice preseason, but I think it's pretty clear. Like Allen Lazard still has a big role in this offense. Watson's their big play guy. They're going to give Aaron Jones a bunch of touches. I'm just not all that excited about the third receiver on this team. So if I can move him for a similar player, like we were talking pre-show, there's a trade that we saw, Romeo Doubs for Darnell Mooney, that was made last week. And I know that's a little different now that the injury came out, but Romeo Doubs for Devontae Adams, or Romeo Doubs and a second round pick for Devontae Adams. You do that all day. I just think that's where I'm at right now, Kate.
I mean, I think you're bringing up that short term view when it comes to these receivers. But I think, Marcus, what I'm looking at is that, opportunity long term. I mean, Sammy Watkins, he's just there on a
He's
1-year
going to be
deal.
gone.
Allen Lazard, 1-year deal. Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, like these are the guys that are the future, presumably, of the wide receiver position.
But would it
Randall
surprise you
Cobb,
at the same time? Would it surprise you if Green Bay drafted a receiver in the first round next year?
At this point, yes, Marcus. We already had opportunities to draft first round wide receivers and first round wide receivers and first round. But like I like Christian Watson was their answer to the first round wide receiver request. Like that was their answer. And Christian Watson, they made some moves for a wide receiver at the trade deadline, but like Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, these are the guys of the future here in Green Bay. They're under contract till 2026. Like Allen Lazard, free agent next year. Randall Cobb, free agent. Like this team is going to be completely wiped back to nothing. I think this is going to come back to Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. I think looking at his age, right? Like 22 years old, coming out of the draft, I liked him. When I was comparing him and Christian Watson, I said Christian Watson was the athlete who was less developed as a wide receiver. Romeo Doubs was the more pro-ready wide receiver that isn't quite the athlete. But otherwise, he hasn't had issues with drops. He's got nice moves. Like he's just a smooth route runner. I think he has skills to be a true wide receiver one. 6'2", 200 pounds. Like this dude has size. There's going to be room in the future of this offense for not just Christian Watson. And like, if we're using Allen Lazard and, Sammy Watkins and that kind of argument here for a guy that I think it just has great, balance, body control, route running skills. Like I think he's a good talent. I think we've already seen the flashes. And Marcus, I'm going to go ahead and sneak in and buy Romeo Doubs while everybody else is getting hyped on Christian Watson.
I want to tell you a trade offer that I made this morning. You tell me which side you'd rather have. All right.
Okay.
I offered an owner of my team that's or another league owner that's a little bit more competitive this year, Romeo Doubs for Calvin Ridley, straight up.
Okay.
Who would you rather have?
I'll probably take that's a good one. That is a good trade, Marcus. I think if I'm in like the purest stages of a rebuild, I go with Romeo just because of the fact like we have the age. I think obviously we know the upside with Calvin Ridley, but he also hasn't played football in a while. He's going to an offense that we don't really know how this is going to shake up in terms of, we have Christian Kirk, who's going to be the absolute monster target hog. Travis Etienne already has, a role as the team's leading rusher, but also we know his chops are as a receiver. I'll still take Doubs there.
Okay. All right. It's a good little discussion. We have another debate coming up, Kate, about a certain running back in the AFC West. But before we do that, I'll let you know that this episode is brought to you by Audible. Audible is releasing a slate of new football podcasts that we're sure you're going to love. Find Think Like a Champion now wherever you get your podcasts. Think Like a Champion is a brand new podcast from Russell Wilson and Audible. Russ is a champion on the field, but off it, we rarely know the grind that it takes to get to that level of greatness. Russell Wilson, alongside co-host Harry Wilson and the late Trevor Morad, dig into how high-performance athletes, artists, and leaders push the boundaries of their potential. You'll hear Von Miller on the podcast. You'll hear former NCAA champion Tim Tebow discuss how you get to that level of greatness. Available for free on Audible or wherever you get your podcasts. Head over to Locked On Presents for a sneak peek of Think Like a Champion, or catch the full series available anywhere you get your podcast. Available everywhere right now. Audible, get in the game. Okay, let's talk about Isaiah Pacheco. Okay, came back. So we've had several discussions about so far. What are your thoughts? Would you sell him after a game in which he just had 23 touches?
I am. And Marcus, I think that, this is coming back from a standpoint of me. I like Isaiah Pacheco. And if I'm in a redraft league, you better believe I'm going to be eating Isaiah Pacheco up. Absolutely eating him up. And going to be buying him and probably watching him carry me to a championship.
Sure.
My concerns from Isaiah Pacheco's dynasty standpoint mostly come from this team, right? Like, this is a team that we saw, funnel targets to Tyreek Hill, saw targets funneled to Travis Kelce. And we saw without Tyreek Hill, guess what? It's still Travis Kelce, but outside of that, we see a general rotation. Like, this is a next man up kind of offense. This is a pass first offense with Patrick Mahomes. What are we thinking is the upside for this 7th round rookie? Like, I know, first of all, there's not a lot of comps that we can look at in terms of 7th round rookies, or that have really made their mark on the fantasy football landscape. At the running back position, we know there's a lot of turnover at the running back position in general. Though this team likes him, I'm just wondering, like, what is their dedication to the run? Because, I mean, they have Jerick McKinnon, who's filling that 3rd down role. In terms of, like, what's the juice of this offense? It's Patrick Mahomes. It's the passing game. I worry that between the draft capital, between the offensive system, between the fact that, like, this offense doesn't need to force feed any particular human outside of Travis Kelce for success. Like, all of these things are adding up to the fact that, if I'm in a rebuild and I don't need points immediately at the running back position, I'll go ahead and move on from Isaiah Pacheco, because I think that, he looks so good. The price I think you're going to get for him is much higher than it will be after he has there's going to be bad games.
Sure.
I'm just looking to sell high and offload that asset, because I don't think that this is a guy that we're going to be able to reliably lock in our lineups, period.
So over the last 3 games, Kate, he has 53 carries for 258 yards. Now he hasn't really done anything as a receiver, but he's averaging, 86-ish yards a game. I'm in. The most common trade right now on Dynasty League football involving Isaiah Pacheco is Pacheco's trade up for a 2023 second round pick. And I would pay that price all day long. I would, because you're just telling me, like, this is a running back that's averaging, again, over the last 3 weeks, 18 touches per game in an Andy Reid offense with Patrick Mahomes. That's absolutely worth a second round pick. I don't care what his talent profile look like. I don't care necessarily what the efficiency is. It's just those kind of situations and opportunities don't come around very often. It's the same reason why people were taking Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 101 in their rookie draft, despite a pretty blah profile, because the situation is so good. So yeah, I'm perfectly fine surrendering a second round pick, hoping to strike gold here.
I mean, Marcus, like you hit the nail on the head. So like he is producing on the ground, but you cannot tell me that you're not a little bit concerned about the fact that in a game where in a span where he's had at least 15 touches per game over the last 3 weeks, he has one single target.
Yeah, but he made good on that target though. He caught it for 17 yards.
He caught it for 17 yards, but despite
It's a little
him having the
concerning,
starting
right?
position, yes, he produced on that single target. You got to be very happy for that single catch. But I mean, Marcus, this is a guy that as a starter hasn't exceeded 56% of offensive snaps.
Yep.
Like he does not have that third down role, which like, yes, you absolutely want that. You want touches, right? And he's getting touches, but that lack of usage in the receiving game does cap his upside, even from a standpoint of looking at like what this team does and how they score points when they get down. They do it through the air, and they do it with Patrick Mahomes. Like I would much rather take the value of Jerick McKinnon. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Jerick McKinnon, I got you.
Thank you. I can't, guys. I'm sorry. This has been a week with the flu, but it's the Kate Magdziuk flu game, and I'm
thriving.
I'm thriving. But I just think like I'll take Jerick McKinnon for that value. Like, give me the guy with some PPR upside who I can count on the field in these tight 2-minute drills, and where I'm going to see some PPR upside. Otherwise, I'll move on from the guy that I think probably we're going to see rotate in and out.
I just love the price. To me, that's where I'm in. It's because right now in Dynasty League football, he's being ranked as RB47, and you look at the names ahead of him, and it's pretty ridiculous, right? So just give me the upside there. I'm willing to surrender a second round pick. It's not that big of a deal. If he ends up not being the starting running back, I'm not going to cry over a second round pick. I just love the upside, and to me, it's worth it. Plus, he's a supreme athlete in an Andy Reid offense led by Patrick Mahomes. I'm in, Kate. All right, we got one more player that we need to talk about that I think you and I are both selling for maybe different reasons right now. But before we do that, we wanted to let you know about Bet Online. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From football to basketball to soccer and esports, they've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, and listen, we know that you do because you're listening to one right now, they have those as well. It's the fastest and the easiest way to get in your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet online, where the game starts. Kate, one last player that we are selling, one last rookie that we are selling, Mr. Kenny Pickett in Pittsburgh, coming off a nice little 3-game stretch. Why are you selling now?
I think what I'm selling on right now is that fact that we're coming off that 3-game stretch. It's been it's been a fine 3-game stretch. We're finally seeing him clean up the turnovers a little bit, but I mean, Marcus, we still have yet to see any fantasy upside for this quarterback,
right?
Like that, it's a total and complete lack of upside. We had 2 rushing touchdowns in week 1, and we were all hyped. We saw, some quarterback draws. He's been relatively efficient on the ground, averaging 5.57 yards per carry. Like, if you heard any of that ahead of the season, you'd be pumped. He's got rushing upside. Like, there's a lot of things to be excited for, but he doesn't have a single game with more than 1 passing touchdown, Marcus. Like, there's not consistency here.
No.
There's not consistency. And I think, I don't need to go back and rehash all the reasons why I think that, if we're betting on Kenny Pickett, it's going to be, we're betting against history. We're betting against his profile as a draft prospect. Like, Um, I don't trust this offense. It's not really certain to me where it's headed long term. Even Najee Harris, like I thought he was going to be a big staple of this offense for a long time to come. I, I don't really know what direction this team is headed in, but I do think that Kenny Pickett's upside, even outside of what he does for the team, there's not a ton there for fantasy football.
And I know people are excited about the last 3 games, but at the same time, the last 3 games have just been mediocre, and they've just been better than what we've seen earlier from Kenny Pickett. In those 3 games, he has 1 passing touchdown, no interceptions. He's averaging 212 passing yards per game. It's not ideal, Kate. And when you compare him to the rest of the quarterbacks in the NFL this season, he's dead last in adjusted yards per attempt. He's dead last in just regular yards per completion. He's last in net yards per attempt, adjusted yards per attempt. His passer rating is the second worst in the NFL, only behind Zach Wilson. It's been bad. And the appeal for the appeal for Kenny Pickett coming out of the draft is, hey, he's a 24-year-old that's pro ready. Maybe he doesn't have that much upside. If he doesn't have a lot of upside, as many draft, experts were predicting, and this is the NFL ready part of his game, I've got a hard time believing that he's suddenly going to make a huge jump. Like if you compare him to another pro ready quarterback like Mac Jones last year, he's so far behind Mac Jones in terms of like yards per attempt and yards per completion and passer rating that I'm selling now. If people are getting a little bit excited about the rushing ability, I'm selling.
I mean, the thing is, we've seen some exciting moments in terms of his rushing ability, right? Like in week 1, coming out of that gate, that 2 rush, or not week 1, in his first start, we saw that. Oh my gosh, in his first game, coming in and playing again. I'm so sorry, you all, with this, with my brain. I'm working on my brain. Um, but in his first game, when he came in to replace Mitch Trubisky, just absolutely dominated on the ground, had those 2 rushing touchdowns, and even so, we're not seeing, even when this team is designing runs for him, that's necessarily translating to fantasy points. And you know why? Because we don't have that passing. We don't have that passing to complement it. Like
No,
I think
he had 1 completion over 10 yards last week.
Yeah, for that rushing upside to translate to fantasy production, we've also got to have that passing component too. And
agree.
The one-dimensional nature of this game, like where he's gonna, I think, need to develop a bit more as a passer, develop more rapport, and if things start to open up down the field, then that might be the time we see this start to translate. But until then, I'm not out.
And please go explore some trades in your leagues, because if you check out the trade finder, you can see some wild trades involving Kenny Pickett. Like, for example, somebody traded Trey Lance straight up for Kenny Pickett.
Yep.
Do that all day, right?
100%.
Yes.
I'll take that upside a million times over a million times.
Somebody traded Kenny Pickett in a super flex league for Terry McLaurin. Like, give me McLaurin all day long. I saw Kenny Pickett in a 2nd-round pick in a super flex league for Garrett Wilson. Like, it's insane how high people are on Kenny Pickett. Go trade for him right now.
This is the highest. This is the highest his value has ever been per Dynasty League Football ADP.
Go get him.
Trade him, baby. Trade him away.
Yep.
And
what I meant, go get him, is like, go get your league mates. This is a sucker trade, right?
Yes, please go sucker your league mates, because I'm gonna take like Geno Smith going directly. I would prefer Geno Smith over Kenny Pickett a million times.
I mean, they're almost the same age.
Times.
That's a joke, but it's close. Yeah. So Romeo Doubs, depends on how you view that one. Same with Isaiah Pacheco, but Kenny Pickett, absolutely go sell after a couple somewhat adequate, decent games. All right, that is it for today's show. Thank you for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Go check out Kate on Twitter at FFBallBlast. You can follow me at Marcus_Mosher. We'll be back tomorrow to break down this awesome Bills-Patriots game on Thursday Night Football and to do some more commotion after we had another strong week, Kate. Like this, we're like 12 for 12 right now, doing really well. So make sure you guys check out that. Enjoy Thursday Night Football. I'll see you next time.